Hello, everyone. Welcome to Portia E Life Series session. Coincidence or results of prayer. I had been wanting to tell this story since January 1st, 2016. However, the fullness of the story had not yet unfolded at that time. For there yet were events thereafter that brought the story to a full circle. About a week ago, I had begun to feel the vast words of my writer deep within me, approaching to my fingertips. Then I began to write. Now, this story has about a five-fold effect, yet I am only able to provide my personal 3D or threefold manner of the side of the story, or at least that is my will to give to you, to open your eyes, your mind to the same. I will begin with my journal. I keep a very personal diary, one that I hold precious to my being. As tears unfold this great mystery, I challenge you to bring your minds in to whatever it is you may hear, because it certainly comes from a good place. On or about July 29th, 2013, the words of my diary opened up to me. It promised me that in my darkest hour, I would be protected, I would be loved, and that I will receive love. Fast forwarding to my prayer of 2015, and it reads as this. Dear God, full of grace and mercy, so passionate and full of love, I often erred in all of these. For as much as I get it, I really have no clue. I know that true love only comes from you. Human love is tainted, alloyed, full of boundaries and upsets, and lacks good emotion with progressive motion. I'd rather have you, of whom I've chosen long ago. Help me to determine what to do with the life you've given me and how you'd like me to do it. I am just a vessel needing use and know-how thereof. I am not my own, but I am yours. I cannot guide myself. I cannot even think for myself. But to have you in, or to be brought in, is everything, means everything to me. I am nothing outside of you. Many days I am the walking dead without you. I ask for your spiritual activation, rebirthing, your freedom, Jesus' standard of being set free, your love to assist me. I am nothing outside of you, but everything within you. Please take my hands, take my mind, rearrange the furniture. Take my heart, take my eyes, take my senses, take my all. For I easily let go and give all to you. I sing in my heart during this precious taking. I give my all to you. Let there be a being brought in. Amen. And I vowed to read that prayer often. In December 2014, I began to go through a crazy thing where my relationship was being attacked. I had been married now for the second time for about 2.5 years, yet I allowed my words of January 3rd, 2015 to bathe within me, and it read, "A woman cannot quench a man's thirst, only God can." So I walked through my days quickly, all the while, allowing the words of my journal to continue to feed me, often reminding me how loved I was. And it also prepared me for an explosion, a bursting. I did not understand yet. I awaited the occurrence to take place, looking, watching, seeking, because I believe in my writer's words, as though it is Bible. And the word bursting had appeared yet 7 times within my writings by March 5th, 2015. And the words darkest hour had appeared 7 times within the same by March 20th, 2015, 15 days after the 5th of March. By my birthday or the day before, which was March 26th, 2015, hubby lost his job. I was distraught. He was distraught. He was angry, bitter, and took the same very personally. Okay, I thought, here we go again. Another issue to deal with. Is this the bursting? Is this come my darkest hour? That weekend was a good birthday weekend, in spite of my minor setback. All the while going to my words, to my journal, for strength, for guidance, for answers. In April 2015, I planned a trip south to South Carolina and planned to visit my family there. I needed the energies of love to heal me, for I was on the path of depletion while I constantly gave at home. When I touched the South, my journal with me, that night after being up late with my sister, I wrote. It felt good to be sane and in the presence of unconditional love. And I enjoyed my week there. While I was there, my sister warned that there was something different in your eyes. I did not know that behind my laughter and smiles and high blood pressure, which is why I took the trip, was a force thereof. How could she see that my eyes were full of darkness? Am I now in my darkest hour? Is this once again the bursting? Now, amid this time, my son's paternal grandmother, his father's mother, had been struck with ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, and she was slowly losing signals to parts of her body. I saw her in the South because I promised her that I would visit her there. While she lived in Connecticut, she too visited to enjoy her sons who were also there. That's just a side note, and to keep that in mind. So while I was there, she texted me because she could not speak. She said, "Could you help me when I return to Connecticut?" And I quickly answered to her with my mouth because I'm sitting in front of her. Of course, I'm more than willing to help you. Fast forwarding now to May through July 2015 when she returned, I and my journal and even hubby packed up our home and practically moved in with my son's paternal grandmother to help care for her upon her arrival in CT. Immediately, we gave relief to my son's grandfather, and my hubby took care of her during days while her hubby, my son's grandfather by marriage, and myself worked during the day. just until the family could figure out what they're doing with her as far as care for the remainder of time, because now she's gradually, daily getting worse. I watched a lot of misery go on in that house. And allowed, it allowed me to see what even I was going through. When a person is sick, people treat them very differently. While a lot was hidden, I watched a woman suffer in silence to the point I had to call my son's father to tell him to rescue his mother. How she was being mistreated, when I or my hubby were not around. And soon my hubby left to go home because he couldn't take it anymore. Now my house was also just as divided. And I don't know, I felt like I owed this woman so much. She was so good, and she was such a good grandmother to my son and her health. I was not going to leave her. And of course, this caused tension among myself and my hubby, yet we were already broken. By the time my son's father came to rescue his mother, moved her south, I then returned home. This return was not a pleasant one. Yet I walked through it until my hubby was now able to return to Jamaica for a memorial for his deceased father. We scraped all that we had to send him there because he hadn't been there in quite some time. Hubby had not yet found work, but said he would look for work once he returned in September 2015. The days so peaceful without him, and I longed for the days as these, where peace reigned all the day long, where there was praise and jovial matter. I remember going to visit a friend during the time that he was gone to Jamaica, and she said, "Wow, you look so free." It was that moment that I was like, wow. Happiness, peace is everything. And my mind reflected on what my sister said when I visited the South. Now, when my husband had returned from Jamaica, he was so miserable. He came back having fought with family, blah, blah, blah. There is always a story with him. And he proceeds to tell me how he will sit a while longer out of work because he had smoked while he was there. I just sighed and went to my journal for guidance. I just knew that I was in my darkest hour. And by October 31st, the words darkest hour had appeared a total of 8 times. The words current spouse had been written thrice. And by this time, I had already decided that I needed to exit my marriage. There was a choking going on, a kind of horrible feeling that I cannot fully explain. I felt deprived of love, used, abandoned. Now, in the summer of 2015, I had filed my husband's 2-year lift regarding residency. And by September 2015, my husband's 4-year-old daughter, which was a surprise, appeared in his life. And I say his life because he wanted me to have no parts in rearing her. And he and the mother of the child decided that I wasn't Jamaican enough to rear their picnic. So I had been excluded from something I know that child would have benefited from. Now, my son was 20, and to go from a 20-year-old to a 4-year-old that was never going to be a part of my life was challenging to me. My son was off to college, and quickly accepted, I quickly accepted that this was going to be. She's here, and this is it. What am I to do? He had gone through a lot inwardly, my husband. It was like he couldn't handle this thing in his life. And he fought over it time and time and time again. In the midst of all of this, our finances had gone sour. To the point that our lights were off. This has never happened in all the days that I've worked. I may have been foreclosed out because I decided to keep my son in private school, or I may have lost a car as a result of the same, but never, especially with someone, has this thing been done to me that I'm doing so poorly. And hubby did nothing to help contribute to the struggle. Fast forwarding now to the day before Thanksgiving 2015, finally we had lights. I'd gone to my son's father, my sister, my son, as well as myself. We all pulled together funds to assist me and my household to have lights put on. It was at this point that me and hubby had to sit down, and we came to the point that we must separate to be healthy. I was tired of carrying him and all of his drama. And he was tired of me making suggestions to him as a resolution. I remember sharing with my brother all that was going on, and my brother urged me to love my husband until he walks out of the door. I felt almost trapped, like, dude, what do you mean love him until he walks out of the door? I've been loving him, but if he thinks that my love is against him, how could my love be for him? My brother urged me to love him. It was all a matter of resources, why I could not just pick up and leave. Yet I kept hearing the words in my journal, I will be with you in your darkest hour. My journal told me that I would have plenty and to hold on, and yet somehow holding on. Allowing my journal and meditation to feed me, by mid-December 2015, my son's paternal grandmother passed away, and I was reminded of her tears. I was so upset that I could not attend that funeral because it was held in the South, and again, my finances just wouldn't allow it. My son's father sent for him right away, or after he completed his college exams. I felt so horrible for my son. He and his grandmother were so close. And I felt like shit that I could not travel with him in support of this homegoing event. I remember words that she texted me. Her name, I used to call her Miss Carol, my son's grandmother, and often read the words. And she told me, when I make it, you will also make it. I never asked her that summer what she meant. I just thought she was being nice as to say she was grateful for my presence in helping take care of her. I kept those words close to my heart. Now the year's end was quickly approaching, and by December 18th, 2015, my journal had promised that I was approaching the end of my darkest hour. It promised me love amid this time or shortly thereafter. I lost my cell phone. On December 28th, 2015, I prayed. No, I begged a prayer of help. I asked for forgiveness, and not just in my prayers, but also to my husband. He was very upset, and we had been going through a whole lot of things just regarding a number of crazy things. But he was upset because we couldn't send for his oldest daughter, who lived very far away from us. Um, and by now, he had chose to begin a part-time job, seasonal. Even among all the craziness, I looked and pondered over 2015, over the words of my journal, over my brother's words, over my sister's words, over my friend's words, and over my husband's words. What a year of pure fuckery. Please excuse my expression. Yeah, my writing warned me that a great presence will always be by my side. It promised me that I was not weak, that I was strong. It promised me that I would be my strength. As tears fell, and often that week, and for so many reasons, I knew that all would be okay. It promised me to share what I would inherit. December 28th, 2015 was my last writing for the year in my journal. On December 29th, my sister emailed me, and she had told me that I was on her heart so heavily the day before, just the day that I was in so many tears. I then told her that I can't do this anymore and how I needed peace. I did not go through any details. I just said those words. She emailed me back asking, what is it I want? And I emailed her back, I want peace. Later that day, she emailed me and she said, me and mommy prayed. I simply said, thank you. Now, hubby and I had begun to do things separately most of that month. One of my amazing sisters, football mom, love each other. We have a group that we call ourselves Sister Marys. And we had been talking about meditating together, having a meditation session pretty much for the past couple of months leading into the end of the year. The only night that we could gather was New Year's Eve, December 30th, 2015. So I made a trip down to Old Greenwich, and our purpose was to vibe and to meditate, and we did just that. Now, during our meditation session, we both walked through sort of how we both meditated. We laid on our backs, we got on the floor side by side, and looked toward the ceiling. And we went into deep meditation. For me, this meant blankness, just total blankness. Not thinking, not doing nothing, total blankness, mind, total blankness. For her, she had a different approach, but we meditated. And as we came out of the meditation, we both were very quiet. We both got up off of the floor and we sat in chairs. And we went into a small discussion about meditation. I grabbed my glass of wine as I listened to her experience. Then I told her my own. It wasn't during the meditation that I focused on, but it was coming out of the meditation that I shared with her. I told her that as I lay and human awareness began to come to me, how I felt this compelling vibration, almost as though two magnets that would come together but could not touch. I felt that energy in between us on my right side. And she finished describing exactly to the detail what it is I felt. And we both said simultaneously how we pushed that energy up. We just pushed it up. We just gave it to wherever it goes. We pushed that energy up. And we both did that. And so we were glad that we were on the same page as that, because we're in meditation, two separate minds meditating, and yet we had the same mind to push that energy up because neither one of us knew what that was. So we talked more, and we came out of it. We talked more, and I soon left, which was by now, it was after midnight. So I didn't get home until much after midnight. So I didn't get home until about 1:40, 2 a.m. So I eased in my bed, trying not to wake up hubby because he had to get up for work now in about another hour. I also was scheduled to work that day, which was now New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2015. New Year's Eve. So hubby proceeded to leave. He got up, etc., and I went back to bed. He asked how was my friend's house, how was everything, because he knows her. She's a football mom. She knows him well, and everything was well with that. So I was telling him, and then I went back to bed. So after he left, I quickly fall fast asleep. He comes back like later, and comes into the house, and he said he couldn't call me, and he had forgotten that I didn't have a phone. And I said, "Oh, why didn't you email me?" And he said, "Oh, completely forgot you had the notepad." So I went to look at my notepad, and as I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh my God, even before I left my friend's house, I'm like, my notepad's not working. And we were laughing and teasing like, oh, the meditation, just wiped out the electronics of your notepad or whatever. So I was telling him now about that. But he comes back in and he's telling me in patois, babes, me not have to work. The people them never tell me that nobody did it. Why? I see one manager and him tell me not on the schedule. So him come back home. So he came back home. This was about 4:50. I say, wow, and okay, and man, I'm going back to bed. He said, babes, I'm going to compare the three Bibles, because we had been talking about the three Bibles we had in the house, and he was going to compare the three because he had been going to church now with a friend of his. He was going to compare the three to see what they said and how things were said. So I said, oh, that's very nice. I wanted to go lay back down so that I can go back to bed. So about 5:20, we heard alarms going off. Now, this is where most people come in who know the whole situation. And I will, again, put that description box. I will put the link to another video that you could catch yourself up on that whole thing in the description box. But to sum up a very short story, a very long story, I'm sorry, but a short story of that event. Fires devastated Bridgeport, Connecticut. The fires at 215 Charles Street devastated Bridgeport, Connecticut. Remember that day I had no phone, so I had no numbers. And the only number I could remember was my son's number, which he was still in the South, and one lady at work. I placed those two calls, and the rest was history. Again, if you want to know that story, that will be linked in the description box. So I only had my non-working electronic notepad, which didn't work until much later that night. But what looked to be a devastation that day was my answers to many things. When I talked to my sister, the one that prayed with my mother, I asked, what in the world did you pray? Because did you pray hell, fire, and brimstone because of what happened now. By now, slowly, I guess, after my son heard about it, after I called him, later he, I guess, put something on Facebook to to my family, and he told them, to be praying. We're losing everything, and he put that, on Facebook or whatever. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't even have that connection. So he was telling everyone, but my sister laughed and she said, we prayed for what you wanted. And I said, what was that? And she said, we prayed for peace. Because of the communities that assisted us financially, my son and myself were able to purchase a co-op unit. While my marriage had been severed and the divorce was final in June 2016, I have so much peaceful awe that encamps round about me. I was encouraged through my journal that kept me guided. I was supported in prayer with meditation and a community who loves myself and more so my son. I was supported via prayer and meditation and a community who loves us both. And the blessings even leaked upon my ex-hubby, my now ex-hubby. He walked away better than before. And now I once again have my son and myself to consider and all the love around us. So you be the judge. Was it coincidence? All of these happenings? All of the writings in my journal? All of the things that went on in 2015 alone? Was it just coincidence? How did my writings know what I would be going through? Was it coincidence? Or was it all a result of prayer? I would love to hear your comments. I hope you all made it through the end of this video. It's very long, but this is a part of my life series. And if you want to hear and see more life series, hopefully there'll be a little shorter one, then just hit the like button and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.